Okay, everyone, welcome back. We took a little break, but this is down the line. Yankees season ended pretty miserably, actually, down in Boston, or I guess up in Boston for us. Pretty treacherous ending. But now we have a lot of off-season content coming your way, a lot of one-off videos that I think you guys should be looking forward to. This episode is going to be covering the Yankees and what they should do with their off-season. But we're also going to touch on the shortstop market, which is historic this year. We're going to touch on the Mets a little bit, maybe some pitchers, maybe some other stuff. Nick, I think what else was there? I think we were looking at some other stuff too.
We'll end up doing like a free agency prediction video. I know we did last year, and then we'll end up obviously as moves happen, have some rapid reaction videos. I love the off season. I know Rob does too. Our initial plan was to kind of cover the whole postseason, but as Yankee fans, after that wild card game, didn't really fucking feel like it. So we don't get paid for this, so why do something if you're not in the mood to? But now it's all over. It's off season time, and we're ready to get back into it.
Yeah, so we got our sights set on a World Series victory. I know we had that last year too. We were pretty high on the Yankees going into last season, and I remember saying multiple times everything we said that like we thought was a lock. Like we thought Boone was going to get fired. Like that's a lock. He didn't. He got an extension. Actually, he got an extension, a pretty lengthy one too, 3 years, which is more. I thought they were going to give him a one and done. Regardless, he's back. Boone's back. We thought heads were going to roll after this year. The Yankees didn't even at least make it to the World Series. They barely made it to the playoffs, if you want to, depending on how you want to see the wild card game. And nothing really happened. So the changes had to come on the field, and the changes had to come with the roster. And that's what we're going to dive into with this episode.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I was definitely on the Fire Boone train towards the end of the season, but the roster needs to improve. I don't care who was managing that team last year. They were not World Series caliber. So there needs to be some pretty significant upgrades and changes, and that's what we're going to get into.
Yeah, so the first one is, like I just said, historic, absolutely historic free agent market for shortstops. One of the most premium positions, the ones that teams are most likely willing to pay $300 million for. We saw it when Manny Machado was on the free agency, was in free agency as well. He wound up just being a third baseman because of Tatis, but he was going into free agency as a shortstop. People were, I don't know what the Padres' intentions were when they signed him. They probably knew they had Tatis in the back burner, obviously. But regardless, people are willing to pay a high amount for shortstops, and we got multiple really in this offseason. So, Nick, I got my opinions about it, but I'm going to let you start. What are you thinking Yankee shortstop wise? I know Brian Cashman has said that is a priority, so I'm expecting something big. I just don't know exactly what it's going to be yet, but what are your thoughts?
Yeah, they're going to add someone. It's going to be one of these five big fish that are out there. There's 5 all-star caliber shortstops. Obviously, you have Correa, Seager, Semien, Baez, and Trevor Story. In my Yankees offseason preview blog, I had written that I wanted Correa the most, and that I thought Story made the most sense if you could get him on like a 5-year deal with, at around 125 million. Story I do like because he's fast, he's good defensively, and his swing projects well to the short porch, a lot of opposite field power. But at the same time, the more I thought about it, I don't know you can get him that cheap. His arm has some concerns around it now. His arm strength was down this past year. Wasn't all that great defensively. And he does strike out a lot, which I get the strikeouts don't matter. But at the same time, I don't want so many strikeout guys in this lineup. So I think it's going to be either Correa or Seager. I'll be happy with either at this point. The downsides to both, Correa, a little injury prone, back issues, right? That's the one thing for me. You're getting a better defender and an elite hitter. I don't care that he's a righty bat. I don't care that he's a loudmouth asshole. Listen, as much as I've hated on him, if he wants to be a Yankee, go for it. Seager, obviously offensively, the best shortstop available, probably the best hitter on the market available. But you're going to have to slide into third base in the very short future. So do I want to give an 8 to 10 year deal to a guy who's only going to play, 1 to 3 years of shortstop? I'm not crazy about it, but at the same time, the Yankees don't have a shortstop right now, and there are 2 absolutely elite guys on the market. So get me either Correa or Seager. I still prefer Correa, but I'm not going to complain about either one. What about you?
Yeah, see, I'm very torn because obviously pitching is in my background. So I think that you need to prioritize defense up the middle. I think that's kind of like the basic premise of it. But, especially with a pitching staff that I think does let the ball get in play a lot, outside of maybe Cole. And then Tyone when he's throwing his best. But I do think that you need to prioritize defense. And that's what worries me about Corey Seager is that he's really not that great of a defensive shortstop. And it concerns me about Correa too, with his injury history, that you're going to be paying this premium for a guy. You're like, yes, he is the player that you want. And he's everything that he even gives like the edge. Do you know what I mean? Like how many times did we say last year, the Yankees were just absolutely dead? Like they looked like they were lifeless. They didn't care. Obviously we know they did. It is what it is. We know they cared, but I feel like Correa just gives him that one little step up where it's like, yo, guys, like, where's the fire right now? And I feel
he has the leadership intangibles.
Exactly. Yes. He's got like that little bit of edge to him now. So everything in Correa is what I want. I don't give a shit about the righty bat, but the fact that he is injury prone back is just like weird. I feel like that's like the one injury where like you never want to hear about that for the pitchers. I think it's shoulders. It's like just with position players, it's like how long is their back going to hold up? And you're going to be playing this guy $300 million to maybe play 100 to 120 games. I feel like you're kind of getting lucky with that. I don't know. I don't want to predict injury because you never know what's going to happen, but he does have his history. But that it does turn me off a little bit to him. So you're not going to like what I had to say about this, but I am kind of on the Andrelton Simmons. I'm a little bit on the Andrelton Simmons. I'm on his train right now. Trust me, I'll take Correa, I'll take Seager, no problem. But past that, I'm not too crazy about how these other guys play defense. If you don't get one of those two, I don't really think it's that big of a deal to downgrade offensively at shortstop and go with someone like Simmons, who's without a doubt the best defensive shortstop on the market. So I think if you're going to go that way, you got to get the best. You don't go with like, I don't know, like someone like one of like Freddie Galvis or something like that. Like you're not going to throw him at shortstop. You're going to get the best defensive guy. But then you have to really make up for it at these other positions that we're going to get into later. So I'm kind of on the same boat with you. I'm good with, although they both have their cons, I'm okay with Seager. Okay. Like obviously be fucking thrilled with Correa or Seager, but past them, I'm not too sold on those other three. And even Correa and Seager, I have my doubts about. So I'm Correa, Seager, Simmons.
And the defense does need to get stronger up the middle. So I guess
how bad did it look when sorry to interrupt you. How bad was it when Torres was our shortstop in the beginning of the season and he was making so many bad plays and it got us off to such a horrible start, and it just made me realize how bad this pitching staff needs a solid defensive shortstop. And if you're not going to get that with Correa with his injury history, you need to prioritize that and get the offense elsewhere. That's my opinion on it. And I'm sticking to that.
And listen, and we'll see what you do with your other moves. Just for me, it's just so tough for me, as good as he is defensively, just seeing what this lineup was last season to slot in a hitter as bad as him on top of that is tough for me. But listen, we'll say if you make significant upgrades elsewhere, then yeah, I could definitely live with it.
Yeah, and people do forget or don't know at all that Andrelton Simmons is one of the best two-strike hitters in baseball. So, I mean, that's not there's a way to word that better. It's to people still do very poorly with two strikes, but he's not that bad with two strikes for what he is.
He must just be horrible with no strike or one strikes then, because he is not a good
That's
hitter.
Correct.
He's not.
That is correct. Yeah, I know. I was looking for any positives with him offensively. So again, I mean, the Correa is the guy that you want, and he's the guy that I'm okay with paying that amount of money. But like Seager, I'm not thrilled with, unless again, like you got to move him over to third base at some point. You got to start to figure out what to do with him, and that's not really a guy I want to start paying $300 million because he's probably going to demand that type of contract as well. Like I don't want to figure him out. Like I know, you're staying there, and you're staying there for the length of this contract, which is what I feel like you can get out of Correa minus his iffy injury history. So Correa, Seager, Simmons.
Right. Okay.
What are you thinking about first base? I think that's the second big one that the Yankees need to focus on, because that's a position where the power needs to come from, and I think we got that with a little bit of Rizzo, but not as much as I think we would have hoped. So what are your thoughts there?
So I know the hot name is Matt Olson right now, and that is the wave I'm on. I
Oh yeah.
think he ends up a Yankee. I just think that the Yankees are the best suited to be trade partners. They've made deals with the A's in the past. There's two affordable RBers left of Matt Olson, arguably the second best first baseman in all of baseball. 27, lefty, coming off a 900 plus OPS, almost 40 homer season. Could probably hit 45 to 50 homers playing Yankee Stadium every day with his swing compared to Oakland. Gold Glove defender, just checks all the boxes. I think it's going to come down to, Cashman not wanting to bid against himself and offer, say, a Peraza or some of his other top prospects. The flip side is bringing back Anthony Rizzo, which I wouldn't mind, with two caveats. One, I really would want to limit it to a 2-year deal, even if it's higher AAV. He's 33 with back issues and has already started to show some signs of decline. So if you can do 2, maybe with an option third and a buyout, I definitely wouldn't hate it. I did like having Rizzo around. And then the other caveat to that is it can't be Rizzo and a shortstop, and that's all you do. Like, if you tell me we're going to bring in a center fielder, which we'll get to next, then yeah, I could live with keeping kind of the status quo with Rizzo at first base and upgrading the lineup in 2 other spots. So it's definitely Olson number 1 far and away for me, and then bring back Rizzo. I think anything short of that, if you're playing DJ LeMahieu at first base, you better have fucking made crazy upgrades everywhere else. He does not put up the offensive numbers that warrant him being a first baseman. You're not getting the best out of him defensively as a first baseman. I don't think Luke Voit will be back. As much as I do like Luke Voit, I think he's a bit redundant to this lineup, like we've said. So I think it's really either got to be Olson or Rizzo. And if it's Rizzo, it's got to be at the right price.
Yeah, I'm pretty much. I wrote down Matt Olson. Yeah. That's it. That there is no other option. Like I get it's take prospects. I get you'd rather pay somebody and hold on to them, but stop that. Matt Olson has been unreal. People forget about him in Oakland. I feel like people really just started talking about him towards the beginning of last year and kind of more towards last year because like the end when he started realizing that they're probably gonna have to trade him. I mean, he is arguably one of the best first basemen in baseball. You said it. Yeah. Get whatever it takes. I know it might take a minute because they're saying that the reports are kind of that the Yankees don't want to bid against themselves right now. Sure, take your time with it, but you got to make it happen. As much as I loved having Anthony Rizzo here, he was great. He was fun. I love his foul ball home runs. Those are really fun to watch. But like at some point, like you got to make the improvement, and that's where it's got to be. He's got to be our Giambi. You know what I mean? We got to have our Tino, whatever it is, our Don Mattingly. Like I think that first base is one of the most important positions to have in a lineup and have that figured out. Like no problem. Like your first baseman is going to hit you home runs, and I feel like as good as Luke Voit is, as good as Rizzo was. One, injury prone, like we've already stated. And, they did have their ups and downs. I really don't see like that many ups and downs coming for Matt Olson. I feel like he's just a solid hitter all around. Oakland is not really, I mean, in my opinion, at least for lefties, it's not really a hitter's park, especially with that deep, the deep right center field fence. And it's all like high, like, come on, he would absolutely rake. He's hitting 39 home runs in Oakland. I'm sure he would hit 40 plus, no problem, in the Bronx. So I'm all in on Matt Olson. Do what it takes to get him. If it takes giving up one of our future shortstops, that's what it takes. You know what I mean? It's what it takes to get a premium player who's relatively cheap. So there is no second option for me. If Cashman doesn't get Matt Olson, it's a failure in my opinion.
The only other name I'll throw out, and it's not happening. It's not happening.
Okay.
On the 1% chance that the Braves really don't pony up and pay Freddie Freeman, he takes precedence. I'll throw him. I don't care that he's on the wrong side of 30. I'll throw him a 5 or 6 year deal and not hesitate because the guy is just so fucking good. But it's just not going to happen. He's staying in Atlanta. I can say that with almost certainty. He's staying in Atlanta. So get me Matt Olson.
Okay, yeah, sorry, you're right. Obviously, if Freddie Freeman is on the market, which technically he is, he's not.
I don't even consider that him an option though. I really don't.
Yeah, that's why I didn't even consider him. Yes, obviously it's fine. To be fair, Matt Olson and Freddie Freeman are my 2 options for first base, but Freddie Freeman has basically already re-signed with the Braves. If he doesn't, I think that'd be one of the more shocking things to happen in baseball over the next couple of years. You know what I mean? Like that, one of the more shocking free agent signings.
I don't know that
wherever the hell he would potentially go.
I don't know that I could think of a guy letting a team walk, or a team letting a guy walk that would be as surprising as that. Like maybe it was it was kind of shocking when the Yankees let Cano walk, I guess. But then like you saw the contract the Mariners gave him, and it kind of made sense. Like I mean, just when you consider his age, he's a career Brave. How good he is right now, what he means in Atlanta. They just won a World Series. This is why I don't see it happening. But I think if he did leave, that would be one of the more shocking free agent departures in Major League history.
Yeah, the one I remember was Pujols. I remember being pretty shocked about that when he left. Okay. When he left St. Louis, because they said they weren't going to pay him for what he wanted, and the Angels, obviously the fucking Angels, been overpaying for decades. But they were the only ones willing to give him what he thought he was worth. Which, in hindsight, Cardinals were kind of right. But at the time, it was surprising. Yeah. Absolutely. So I think it would be Pujols, Freeman, right around there. But yeah, so for this offseason, Freddie Freeman not really on the market. So it's Matt Olson. Yeah, he's available. They want to trade him. They're willing to trade with the Yankees. They've done good trades in the past, very fair trades. The Sonny Gray one for the most recent example, I think. I don't think there was a one since that. Maybe if it was small. No. But yeah, no. So, but regardless, they're good trade partners. It's got to happen. It's a failure if it doesn't happen.
Absolutely.
Moving on to center field. I want to start this with I hate Aaron Hicks. I want that known. I hate him. I was against that contract the second that he signed it. 7 years, $70 million, $10 million a year. I thought he was injury prone before. I still think that he's overrated. I get he had a defensive peak. I think that he's well over that. So he cannot be your starting center fielder come day one. I think Cashman knows that as well. If we know that, Cashman knows that. What are you thinking in terms of center field for the Yankees?
Yeah, they have to. I didn't hate the Hicks contract at the time because I was like, oh, $10 million a year. If he has to be a fourth outfielder soon, like that's fine. What I didn't anticipate was him literally just deciding not to play more than 60 games a year and needing to be a fourth outfielder almost immediately into the deal. So yeah, I'm very over him. I'll take him as a high upside fourth outfielder, especially because I really don't love his defense in center field at this point. Even when he did play last year, his arm is pretty much gone after Tommy John, and his range and just routes to balls were awful last year. He was terrible. He's terrible to watch defensively, never mind that he's really nothing special offensively. So I wasn't.
No, he does pip a good home run. I'll give him that. Outside that, I hate him.
Listen, he's fine, but it's not like this is Byron Buxton we're talking about, where when he plays, he's otherworldly. Like when he plays, he gets on base a lot, which is cool. He doesn't hit for all that high of an average. He hits for some power, not a ton. And it used to be you live with all that stuff and you take it because he's elite defensively. He's terrible defensively now, at least in center field. I think he would make for a more than fine corner guy. In center field, I'm not trying to play him out there more than like 40 or 50 times a year. I'm just not.
Yeah.
So it was refreshing to hear Cashman mention center field specifically. He singled out center field and shortstop when he was talking about positions that need to be addressed, because I really thought he was just going to pencil back in Hicks, and he still might. He might be trying to throw people off the trail. There's so many ways the Yankees could go in center field. Who do you have? Who's your guy? Did you narrow it down to one guy? Because I have a dream guy that I don't think is happening, but who's your choice?
Look, so the fun answer, if we were playing MLB The Show, is Starling Marte. I don't think there's too much of another answer. I mean, the guy's a speedster, great at the top of the lineup, hits for great average, on base, good defensively, fat, like checks every single box that you would want in a center fielder, except maybe the fact that he's a righty. But at the end of the day, I think with the other acquisitions they have, hopefully Matt Olson, fingers crossed on that. And Joey Gallo being added to the lineup, things like that. I'm not too concerned. And I'm in the end of the day, it's probably going to be Seager too. So I think we'll have the balance of righty lefty. So if you can get Starling Marte, you get him.
Yeah.
That said, I don't know how likely that is. I feel like he's going to demand a lot. And if the Yankees are already dedicating themselves to paying one of these shortstops, I don't know how much. Again, Cashman could spend all in. I don't know how likely it is that that's going to happen. Then you got the other names like Chris Taylor, Mark Hanna, Castellanos would be fun just to have as an outfielder, figure it out wherever the hell you want to put all of them. Chris Bryant too. But at the end of the day, even Adam Eaton, I wouldn't hate. At the end of the day, I don't think that they make too much of a move in center field because I think they're going to allocate a lot of the other stuff elsewhere. So I think that, you've what's the word, alluded to this as well. I want Florio up. You know what I mean? I think that this team does need a little bit of homegrown, especially this year. I think they need a young guy that the team almost kind of gets behind and roots for when he does play well. That was so much fun to watch in like the 2016, 2017, when all these young guys were coming up. I feel like it's just like Correa gives an edge, a young guy who's trying to prove himself gives an edge to the team, where it's like, hey, this guy's busting his ass to try to get this starting spot and like solidify it. That's why I kind of like Florio. I mean, we saw a spark of him last year, and he has his issues, swing and misses and all that stuff. But I don't mind if he is starting in left or center opening day. I think that's a little controversial based on what's out there right now in the outfield market, but I don't hate it. You got Judge, who can possibly play center. I don't know if he's an everyday guy, but you have Gallo, who can go there too. Stanton can play a little outfield, keep him left. And then you have Florio, and then maybe you sign, Aaron Hicks too. You keep him there, and then maybe you sign like a fifth guy like Adam Eaton or something like that for cheap. And you got your 5 outfielders for the season. I don't know. So my opinion, and I kind of want it this way, is that they don't really focus too hard in center field, and just play with what they got. Because I think they have talented outfielders, and I want to see Florio get his chance. And then if it doesn't work out, you make a trade at the deadline. I think that's what you do with center field. Yeah.
Right. And listen, I love Florio. For me, if you're telling me that the Yankees are really going balls to the wall, then go get me Starling Marte. That's kind of one of the situations I alluded to before, where I won't mind if they don't go get Olsen and they bring back Rizzo on a short deal, if they're also upgrading center field with a guy like Starling Marte. Yeah. I don't care that he's a righty. I don't even really care that he's 33. He's in great shape. He just stole almost 50 bases. I'll gladly give him 3 or 4 years. But I think that's the problem. I think when you look at a Matt Olson, he's only a 2-year deal guy, or at least you're only locked into 2 years. And then you're talking about the third year, where it depends what the CBA is going to be. You're probably getting under the luxury tax again. So if you're extending Judge, you have Stanton on the books, Cole on the books. You're going to have a shortstop on the books, most likely, I think. So I don't know that they would want to go 4 years for a 33-year-old center fielder. Look, if they want to go and bring in, say, Eddie Rosario or Jock Peterson, a guy that's really more of a corner guy, and say, listen, you know what, we're going to roll the dice between Hicks, Florio, and then, playing the corner guy and then shifting either Judge or Gallo periodically to center field. Yeah. I'm cool. I love Florio. I think if he pans out, and again, we've seen this guy for 13 games total, and he was good in the short sample last year. He's everything you need. He's elite defense in center field. He's the speed on the bases that this team lacks. Like, not even just from a stolen base standpoint, just from not having guys clog up the bases. He's perfect for that. And if he could figure out the swing, literally if he could be what we depend on Aaron Hicks to be, just hit like 240 and just that lefty swing, drive a couple balls over into the short porch, like, I will gladly sign for that. So if you told me that that's what we're gonna get out of Florio, then I'd be cool with rolling with him and Hicks. But I think that it's really, really essential that we don't have Brett Gardner back, not to rip on him, because it's time for Florio to get his chance. Because even if Hicks does go down, which if he's our starting center fielder, he will go down probably relatively early into the season. I don't want it to be, all right, Gardy's there every day now. No, give Florio the shot every day. And then if he fails, if he's striking out at a crazy clip, then like you said, go make a trade. But I'm with you. Starling Marte is my dream option. But if not, give Esteban Florio a shot to at least crack this roster for opening day.
That's all I want. And look, you could probably go out and pay Castellanos, put him in right, move Gallo, you could do the whole move around thing and all those different things. But like I said, the defense up the middle is one of the most important things. So you're getting a new shortstop. I'm going to talk about potentially getting a new catcher too. And now you're thinking about trying to figure out your center field situation as well. That has got to be on lock. That has got to be figured out. And as much as I don't mind Judge in center field, I don't think that he's fast enough to actually kind of cover the gaps in the way that we would kind of hope. I think Florio is. So, and then you got the power in right and left field, with the arms, being able to throw people out and let your center fielder cover the range. And I think that Florio can do that. And that's why I'm not too crazy about like them going after Castellanos or who are the other guys I had, Marcana, like that. Like I actually would like Chris Taylor if there's a option.
I would love
Chris. Totally opposed to. But he also just rejected the qualifying offer. I'm sure he just wants more years.
Chris Taylor also could play everywhere, so it's not
Yeah.
like you're not locking yourself down with him. Like I would almost say my options are signed Marte and or Taylor, depending on kind of who you can get for more realistic price point relative to their ability.
Yeah.
But my only thing about playing Judge in center is I really don't want to do it every day. They did a good job of keeping him healthy this year. He played, I think it was 148 games, would have been higher if not for COVID. I don't want to test him in center field more than like a once a week thing. So
yeah, I agree with that. I mean, also, the other outside of Marte, and I think this is why he's going to get more than maybe he's worth long term. Maybe in like the later years of his contract. I mean, there's not really a true center fielder that's like really talented out there. Yeah, yes, all these guys play center field, but like Chris Bryant is not like a true center fielder. Yes, he plays there. Chris Taylor, not a true center fielder. Yes, he plays there. Marcana, not even a true center fielder. He's more of a corner outfielder guy. So like Marte is going to get a lot of money. He's going to demand a lot because he is a pure center fielder who checks every single box. And I don't know if the Yankees are going to want to pay that premium right now.
Yeah,
so that's why I'm a little out on him. But again, he's uber talented. If they want, not my money, write the check.
And even on the trade market, right? There's really not true two-way center fielders out there. Like I know Ketel Marte is a hot name. He's really more of a second baseman, even though he plays center field. This guy I would love. But again, Brian Reynolds, I don't think is actually available. I think that the Pirates are just going to see if anyone gives them a Godfather offer for him, but I don't think he's on the move with how controllable he is. And then you could take a chance on 1 year of Byron Buxton, but for me, it's almost like, how am I going to say I can't go into the year relying on Aaron Hicks and trade for arguably one of the only guys that's actually more injury prone than Aaron Hicks? Like maybe you get lucky and he plays 120 games this year, and that would be obviously amazing. He's probably the best center fielder in baseball, not named Mike Trout, when he's healthy, which is not often. So for me, am I trading Florial and say a Clark Schmidt to get maybe 1 year of Byron Buxton? I don't know. Part of me would just kind of rather at that point see what Florial could be for us. I know it's not Byron Buxton. That's not his ceiling. But regardless, I don't know if I want to do that for 1 year of him. So I think it's an interesting position in that the Yankees are going to address it and really should address it. But there's not a ton of options that make sense either defensively or financially.
Yeah. I mean, again, I know we said that Cashman, like noted center field as a position he wants to upgrade. I just don't see where it makes the most sense for, the price points. But if you want, again, not my money, if you want to go sign Starling Marte, have at it. I just don't think that it's going to make the most sense. And I'm totally okay with Florial being your guy. Giving him his due. And like you said, Byron Buxton, let's say he's healthy at the deadline. Let's say the Twins wind up not trading him. Go get him then.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Go get him then. Florial didn't work out. At the end of the day, it's the regular season. It's not the biggest. The first half of the season isn't the worst thing in the world. Look how bad the Yankees were last year, and they still had a chance to do something in the playoffs had they not had a disgusting roster. So I think even though he said it, I think center field is a place that they don't desperately need to upgrade. Unlike good transition here, catcher. Yeah. I think they need to improve on catcher. I mean, it's a tough decision here, and it's not the worst thing to have a bad hitting catcher because a lot of teams do, but it is bad to have a bad defensive catcher. Like I said, I'll say it again, up the middle. You know what I mean? That's the most important parts defensively. And I was looking at Gary Sanchez because I'm like, okay, where can I defend him? Hitting, not really. Great, awesome power. He had fun. It was fun in 2016. Fun times here and there throughout. Decent stretch in 2021. But like defensively, where I can't really defend him anymore. I always thought that it was his arm that I could be like, no, he's got a great arm. Like he throws out runners. People don't want to steal on him. He's under 30% caught stealing. I think he was at like 29 point, like something like that. 29, like 28, 29%. Yadier Molina is at like 42%. Obviously the best catcher in baseball defensively. Buster Posey up there too. But he's 20th in the league in catching runners stealing. Like the Braves won with Darno, who was at 21% because I was trying to compare that. But he was also, hitting his weight, So I don't really see a place to defend Gary Sanchez anymore. I thought it was his arm, but it's really not. I feel like we missed our chance to upgrade in free agency last year when all those other guys were going, like Realmuto, McCann, all those guys. Um, but am I crazy to kind of think that maybe in this Matt Olson deal, we should also try to grab Sean Murphy? I mean, like
No, not at
he's
all.
like a 3-3 war guy. I mean, I'm willing to pay a little bit more to solidify those positions in one move because you're done after that. Sean Murphy, Matt Olson. Let's do it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that would be great. I just think when you talk about catching league wide, how many two-way catchers that can actually hit more than just their weight, like a Sean Murphy and defend, are there? It's not a lot. I think if you go by baseball trade values, which again, obviously not a perfect website, but I think is a pretty good baseline for where guys' value is. You talk about, being able to get go with Peraza and maybe, one or two lower or mid-level prospects and get Matt Olson, then you're starting to talk about, all right, I think I might need two of our top guys. And listen, and I'm not necessarily opposed to it. I think when you look at Murphy's age, his ability, and he's a big, he'd be big for the lineup, especially if, like you said, if you're rolling with Andrelton Simmons and Florial, that's
I
kind
don't
of too.
want that. I'm okay with it.
I'm not, but I'm just saying if that is what they end up doing, and they say we're going all in on defense, then you're going to kind of need some offense from the catching position. Even if you have an Olson, Judge Stanton, Gallo and DJ bounce back, then can you roll with a catcher that doesn't hit his weight either? So no, but no, listen, if the A's are truly having a fire sale and they for some reason decide to trade some of these guys in the same package, then absolutely, I think that's a home run of a trade.
I feel like that could. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm just being optimistic. I don't know what the package would look like for two MLB, nearly all-star caliber people. I mean, I think Sean Murphy was an all-star last year. I actually don't remember, but regardless, he's all-star caliber. And obviously Matt Olson is as well. I don't know what that package would look like, but I could see Brian Cashman just stacking up prospects. You know what I mean? Just like Luke Voigt, and then just all like a bunch of like top guys. I almost sell the farm a little bit to get what the A's had and, kind of lock up those two very important positions. But I don't know. Look, that was a bit of a pipe dream. I was looking at that. I was looking at some of the top catchers and like their wars, defensive and all that stuff. And I'm like, oh, he's on the A's. Maybe we just get that over with in one shot. But a little bit of a pipe dream. Who did you have a catcher?
So when I wrote my offseason blog, this was probably a couple weeks ago, I had Tucker Barnhart just because I thought he's a lefty. He's a good a good compliment to Higgy. He's an even better framer than Higashioka. I think Higashioka, Baseball Savant, had him as like a 70-something percentile framer, and Tucker Barnhart's like 84. He's already gone. He's signed with the Tigers. Manny Pena was another defense first guy from the Brewers, 35, but he's one of the better defenders.
Catches last a little longer too. Yeah.
He just signed with the Braves today. I think you need to move on from Gary Sanchez, because if there's a position you really, really need to prioritize defense, like we keep saying defense up the middle, but that's been such a big issue for the Yankees the past, really 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
Catcher is number one. And for me, Gary, he's going to make $8 million this year. He hits better than the average catcher, but even that's not necessarily true. Like he's got like a 99 weighted runs created plus, which is better than the 89 average for catchers. But it also comes with just absolute peaks and valleys where he'll carry the offense for a week and then he's horrible. So like, do I need that from a catcher? No. I could live with his defense when he was crushing it. 2016 Gary had 20 home runs in less than 60 games. 2017 Gary, he was hitting 270, like 33 bombs, driving in 80 guys. Like I'll live with the defense for that. I'm not going to live with it for league average production just because he's a little bit better offensively than most catchers. So they need to go all in on defense. So I say they make a trade for Jacob Stallings of the Pirates. Yeah. Another team the Yankees have traded with in the past. The Pirates not looking to contend anytime soon. They have some catchers in the pipe. Stallings just won the Gold Glove. I believe he's like 31.
Yeah, I think I remember seeing 31. Yeah,
with 3 years of control left, if I'm not mistaken. So, I mean, I don't think it requires any of your top prospects to get a guy like him. And again, it's somewhere where you need to acknowledge this guy is not going to hit. He's going to, maybe if you want to say he'll be a little more consistent than Gary, where his valleys won't be as low, fine. But in terms of your overall slash line at the end of the year, it will likely look worse than Gary Sanchez's. But I'm at the point where why should we live with league average production from the catcher and get, I mean, some of the, I mean, the tag in the first game of the Subway Series at City where Gallo had the guy out by literally 30 feet and Gary couldn't tag him. Like, it's just shit that cannot happen anymore. Like, I'm sick of it. And, you know, we had the Yankees' two best starting pitchers last year. I guess I wouldn't say Kluber was our second best, but two of the Yankees' five starting pitchers weren't even throwing to Gary last year. Like,
Yeah.
for me, it's just time to bring in a defense first guy and say, I don't care what this guy does at the plate. If he calls a good game, he receives the ball well. He's just all around defensively going to hold down the fort for us. That is what I want as a catcher. It's not Gary Sanchez. So get me Jacob Stallings or someone similar. Already a couple options are gone. So I think Stallings is the guy, but just someone strong defensively is all I ask.
Yeah, I was going to suggest just on a maybe 1-year deal, maybe even 2, depending on, you know, kind of what the market looks like. Because I mean, catchers seem to kind of look like they're flying off the wall, so you might have to add a second year, or maybe a player option, a team option, whatever it is. I like Yan Gomes. I don't think he's the worst catcher in the world. I don't think it's a flashy name. I think it's something you'd be like, oh, that's a nothing move. But I mean, look what we thought about Clay Holmes. How we were like, oh, that's a nothing move, whatever it is. He's just some arm. But he turned out being unreal, you know, same with Joely Rodriguez. You know, though obviously those are pitchers, a little bit different, but I don't think you need to get too flashy of a name here. Obviously, my dream scenario is with the Matt Olson and the Sean Murphy aspect, but I like Jacob Stallings. I like Yan Gomes, you know, just a guy who's defense first and, you know, good with the staff, most importantly. And you know, yeah, he'll get some hits. He'll get some hits here and there. It's not that big of a deal, you know. And then you still have Higgy. You still have a Gashioka who hits the ball. You know, he hits every now and then. Showed some, I think, some significant pop at the plate for sure. So I don't mind maybe them doing like a 90, 70 game split, something like that. You know, maybe 70 games for Gashioka, maybe actually a little bit much. Maybe like 160, you know, around that.
Yeah, I would sign for Yan Gomes in a second. Just someone good defensively. That's really all I ask.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, we have our names, but I think for the most part, it's going to be interchangeable who you could improve with. But at the end of the day, I think it's most importantly that it's not Gary Sanchez. It doesn't matter who it is necessarily. Obviously, I don't want you signing some AAA guy and just throwing him into the starting lineup. But like, it doesn't matter. There's a lot of good enough free agent catchers where I think you improve defensively and you don't get that much worse offensively, especially where else you're improving, you know, throughout the rest of this.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. I think that was all offensive stuff. Are there any like pitchers that you're like, we need this offseason? I mean, I know Verlander's being thrown out there. I've heard some Robbie Ray rumors here and there. Obviously, Max Scherzer is going to be tossed around. I don't know how likely he is. Gausman's a good one. I'm looking at the list. Rodon's been a big one that I think a lot of people are going to overpay for. He's only had one good year and he's had a lot of injuries. I don't know how much he's really worth. Are there any arms like starting pitching wise that you're like, we got to get this guy like right now, like to improve this team?
No, there's no one that I'm like dying for, I guess. I had Tanaka coming back in my offseason preview blog. I still would like to see it. I think, you know, again, he's a back end guy at this point, but I think he's an innings eater. And it's the first time in a long time where the Yankee rotation is really not in a bad place. When you look at Cole, Severino, Montgomery, Tyone, who's going to miss the start of the year, and then your depth with Nestor. You've got Luis Heel, so you know you still have Herman. So I don't hate the rotation list. But yeah, exactly. I like where we're at. Tanaka, I think, is a guy you just know can eat innings for you, which would be good. If I had to take my pick, one of the guys, Scherzer, I don't think is coming here. I think the Dodgers make him a fuck you offer.
Yeah.
I would love to take a flyer on Verlander just because I think that if you look at, he's probably going to want a 2-year deal. Money really shouldn't matter to the Yankees for these 2 years. It doesn't matter if they stay under the luxury tax. If he wants 2 for 45 or 2 for 50, I'll take that risk. I'll see what happens. I mean, listen, the best case scenario, if he's anything Houston Verlander, that's a sick rotation. That facing him, Cole, and Severino in a playoff series, that's just a fuck you, nuts on the table, 3 power pitchers who are gonna fucking strike you out. So I think that if I could choose one guy for the Yankees to sign, it would be Verlander. But I'm not gonna sit here being like, "Oh, I can't believe you didn't do that." What about you?
Yeah, so I mean, I like Verlander. Don't get me wrong. But there's something about a 40-year-old pitcher, and I feel like I actually have been very pessimistic this entire video in terms of people's injuries, what I want the Yankees to do. But there's something about Verlander that just isn't sitting right with me. A 40-year-old pitcher coming off Tommy John that you're gonna have to pay a lot, and he's a power pitcher. They said he's back at 96, but I don't know how long that's going to last. And we always talk about starting pitching in the postseason. I really don't care what he looks like in the regular season. If you're 40 coming off TJ, I mean, how long are you really going to be your best for? I don't know. I'm not as sold on him as I think other people might be. I don't think he's going to be his best come playoff time, and that's really all I care about. Then again, I thought the same thing when he got traded to the Astros. I thought he was done. So he's proved us wrong before. If you want to take a flyer on him, I don't think $25 million is really taking a flyer on him at the end of the day. But if they do it, I'm not going to be like, that was so dumb to do, because at the end of the day, he's Justin Verlander. He's proven people wrong before. He's been a Cy Young multiple times, and I think he might have been the best pitcher in baseball before he got hurt. He was pitching like it, certainly, when a Cy Young a couple years ago. So, I mean, I don't know if they do it. I'm not going to be mad about it. I'm just a little bit more skeptical of it, because I think just someone who is a power pitcher like that, it makes it harder the older you get to throw 95 in September and October. Do you know what I mean? So that's what I'm a little scared about. I like Gausman a lot, actually, coming from San Francisco. I love a guy who has a splitter, because not many people have that. That's why I like Tanaka too. Just disgusting splitter. Rodon, I'm pretty much out on. I don't want the Yankees to sign him at all. I don't think they will. They don't really seem like they're in the market for him. But there's just something I don't like about him coming off all those shoulder injuries. And really only having one good season, even in his one good season with injuries last year. So I don't know. I'm pretty much out on him. Scherzer not happening, but Robbie Ray, I don't want either. So, I mean, I guess if we're going to make an addition to this starting rotation, it's going to be Verlander, or in my dream world, it's a Gausman. Am I saying that right? Gausman. I feel like it's pronounced Gausman. I feel like I heard someone say it differently once. And I'm like, I feel like that sounds right, but I'll go with Gausman. But he's the one guy who I really want. Verlander, I'd be okay with.
Yeah, I like Gausman too. I wouldn't mind giving him like a 5-year deal. I am more on the optimistic side that he actually did find it in San Francisco. I would be happy if we gave him a deal like that. I would freak out if we gave Robbie Ray a deal like that. I think he's the biggest fraud ever. I think that whoever gets him, hopefully the Angels, just because that would be funny and that would make sense.
They're going to.
His sign blows up in their face. Robbie Ray, I would freak out. My one thing, I get that it's tough to say, yeah, we're paying this guy $25 million a year. It's a flyer, but if it's a 2-year deal and the Yankees are willing to spend like they actually are, it kind of is a flyer. Like this was John Boy's point that I'd heard a couple days ago, and I thought it was spot on. The problem with Kluber wasn't taking the chance on him. It was that was so much of that was their budget. Like essentially that was their offseason. So it's like, so if you're telling me the Yankees are not going to add as much salary as we think, and they only go get a shortstop and Verlander, and they just roll with the status quo at the other positions you mentioned, first base, center field, and catcher, then no, I don't want Verlander at $25 million. But if the reports are true that they're willing to go up into like the $290 million range for payroll, fuck it, throw 25 of it. I don't care. Like we said, not our money, right? So I think that if you're going to take a risk on a guy, I think I'd rather take 2 years of Verlander over 5 years of Ray, or maybe arguably even 5 years of Gausman.
That I agree with. That I agree with. If you're going to take a risk on somebody, it is Verlander. I just personally don't believe that Gausman's as much of a risk. As people may think, just because he's not as big of a name. I think that like you might see it typically as like a top free agent starting pitcher. I think he's earned his due, and I think he's earned the contract that he's going to get. Robbie Ray has not. He had an historic year for him in his own career world. He had an historic year for not walking people. I mean, I don't see him really repeating that unless he figured out something with his mechanics or his pants get fucking tighter. For all the hell I know, I don't know if he's got to keep his pants that fucking tight in order to not walk people. But regardless, I think that was a fluke season. I think it's going to be some Rick Porcello-ass Cy Young award. I do not want the Yankees even offering him money in the off chance that he accidentally presses accept or however the hell they send contracts these days.
It's not happening. They're not signing him. Do you think that there's any chance we get some semblance of Stroman to the Bronx rumors from either, like a baseball writer? Do you think even Stroman tries to troll and be like, oh, the Yankees still need pitching help? I think personally he brings it up on Twitter. I think that's an absolute lock.
Nick, I saw him on the list of free agent pitchers, and I'm like, I don't even want to think about Marcus Stroman coming to the Bronx. Great pitcher. I just couldn't think of a worse personality fit to be here. I do think he might run some rumors out he'll think that he's playing like the Scott Boras game where it's like everyone just in on the Yankees just to up their value by like $500,000. He'd think he's doing that. Everyone's just like, no, dude, we know you're not coming here.
No, I hate.
No, you don't fit in that Buick.
Yeah, I hate him so much.
Yeah, we should sign him and then just throw him in the bullpen.
That would be amazing. Oh my God, he would call Brian Cashman a racist so quickly.
Be like, no, dude, you only have 2 pitches. Your third one sucks now. Sorry.
Also, imagine we sign Corey Seager as our shortstop. So he goes from having Lindor as his shortstop, who bailed him out God knows how many times last year, and to Seager, who's like a below average defender at shortstop. And that would be horrible. He's going to get, I don't know who's going to be more overpaid, him or Robbie Ray. I argue Robbie Ray because I think he's really going to crash and burn, but they're both going to get contracts that they are just not deserving of. I think that's an absolute lock. I hope the Angels sign both. I hope the
Angels are signing both of them.
And they're both terrible.
There's so many like good players that you can be like, that's a great signing. And they are just going to go for the 3, 4, 5 people that it's just like, oh my God, like, oh, these are the people that nobody wanted to overpay. And I know we're going to have to do it. And they're going to get every single one of them. It's just going to be a roster of overrated players. That's the Angels.
You see the Mets might sign Billy Epler from the Angels.
Yeah. I mean, I guess
don't know
they're really out of options, aren't they?
How can you look at what the Angels have done and said, you know what, the guy who made all that happen, we're going to bring him in?
I guess no, he didn't. He probably didn't even draft Trout. He was way.
No chance.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say no chance. Did he bring Ohtani over, Epler?
Yeah, but I'm really not gonna give him credit for that because like it was like a generational guy coming here on a cheap contract. Like anyone who could have gotten their hands on Ohtani would have taken the risk on him at whatever it is, like $6 million a year, whatever.
Who's the guy coming over from? It's Japan, right?
I think it's like 6, right? I don't know. Sia Suzuki. I think I might have botched the name completely, but
no, I think you were close-ish. Again, not a pronunciation show. We will butcher it and you can make fun of us for it. That's fine. But I mean, I didn't even think of him as an option because I think they just announced today that he's going to be available, but I think they had to like go through some final stages. But it seems like he's going to be an option in center field.
It wouldn't cost much.
And he's supposed to be a stud. Yeah. I don't know. I haven't seen enough of him to be like, let's go get him. He doesn't seem like he's Ohtani. So I'm not, I'm not going to, I would still rather stick with our guys that we said in this video, but I mean, it's going to be interesting to see where he lands.
Yeah. I already fake enough expertise on this show. I'm not going to pretend to break down a Japanese baseball player like I've ever seen him play in a real game. And I think besides like a highlight video on YouTube and Twitter, but no, I mean, if he wants to come here, like, you get these guys for, I would say realistic prices. Yeah, I would take a shot on him. Sure. Anything over not addressing center field, I will do.
No, I think that's the only place that we differed for the most part was I'm okay with not addressing center field as long as it's Florio coming up. But outside of that, I think we were around the same, just to recap. So I think shortstop, we both Correa is number 1. I'm not as sold on Seager as I think you are. I'm okay with if we wind up just prioritizing defense there. Matt Olson, I think we're both set on. That's got to happen. It's a failure. If it's failure for me. Improve a catcher. You're Yumi a little different in center field. And then pitching is kind of just like, fuck it. Whatever you can get your hands on other than Robbie Ray and Marcus Stroman.
I agree. No, I agree. I think I think they shouldn't. I've seen some people try and say, "Oh, pay a reliever." I don't know how. After what you've seen,
Yeah.
I'm never signing reliever to anything longer than like a 1 or 2 year deal ever again. I just think it doesn't make sense. Britton and Chapman contracts, the Ottavino contract gets get out of. And Cashman, to his credit, is a wizard at finding relievers. Like, fuck paying someone. Go find me the next Wandy Pross. Like, go find me the next Clay Holmes. It's something he's good at. We have Jonathan Loaizaga. Albert Abreu, I think, is a guy that I really want to hang on to. I really don't want to have him as a throne for one of these trades. I think he could be, maybe not as good as Loaizaga, but I think he's the next guy to pop off where he has the stuff to be a back end of the bullpen arm for us. So I'm really honestly excited about this bullpen unit moving forward, and I'd be totally okay if they did minimal or nothing to even address it this offseason.
Yeah, just get some healthy arms. No Darren O'Days, none of that shit. No Zach Britton's, none of that shit. Just get somebody.
I don't need any of that. I don't need any of that.
Get somebody who's going to be healthy, who's going to eat up innings. I think you have your guys that are going to carry you. Just get some inning eaters. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we don't have to burn Chad Green every single game at the end of the season. Just get somebody who's going to let these guys be healthy at the end of the year.
And I think too, another thing, I forget who was making this point, but they were talking about kind of how the Astros and certain other teams in the playoffs, I think the Dodgers have been kind of doing this too. It was almost like they were less focused on starters and relievers, and they just had a bunch of guys that could give them like 2-3 innings, 30-40 pitches. So it's like, I don't need some 32-year-old veteran on a 1-year contract to be our 5th inning guy. It's like, if Luis Gil's not in the rotation, like, let Luis Gil come out of the bullpen and throw 2-3 innings at a time, once or twice a week. Let that be Nestor Cortez. Let that be, whoever you want to say, Clark Schmidt. Get me a bunch of guys throughout the regular season who maybe they're not built up to 90 pitches, or maybe they're not coming in for just an inning. Let's see some of these starters kind of build up their arms. Where in the playoffs, say, you don't have Garrett Cole pitching, you don't have Severino pitching, where you say, go get me 6-7 innings. You throw out, 3-4 different guys that are just like, they're going to throw 30 pitches. They're going to go through the order one time, and that's going to be it. And then that's all you see of them. So I think that that's something that the Yankees can use their depth to their advantage, not just for when starters go down, but just to kind of attack teams throughout the season.
Yeah. I'm good with that. I don't think really that much needs to be done to the bullpen. I think in the past we've said how much of a strength it is for the Yankees. Roll that back. You got the arm talent is there. We've all seen it. I think Matt Blake is good enough to get the best out of a lot of these guys. I mean, we saw it out of the starting rotation. I think a lot of those guys had some of their best moments, in their careers. Tyone had pitcher of the month for God's sakes. Nestor Cortez looked unreal. Clay Holmes, like Wandy Peralta, Loaizaga, like all these guys. I think Matt Blake got the best out of them. I think he can do that for the rest of these guys too. You don't need to spend your money on the offense. Go make that happen. Do not touch a reliever unless he's getting you innings.
I agree. I trust Matt Blake in whatever he wants to do. He's earned the keys to the castle with me, pitching staff wise. I think whatever that guy wants to do, whoever he wants to bring in, whoever he wants to give opportunities to from within the organization, he has my full blessing at this point. Whatever he wants to do, I'm okay with doing.
Yeah, Matt Blake for manager. I'm still gonna kick off that campaign. I don't think it's happening for another. I think we missed that boat, but I'm still gonna campaign for that this year.
He'll manage whenever Boone gets ejected.
Yeah.
Is
that how that works? No, it's the assistant coach, right?
It's always the bench coach. Usually.
Yeah, all right. But we'll I'll talk to Cashman about that. We got to get Matt Blake some innings.
You get Matt Blake some innings.
We get him in the pen. All right, I think that's everything. We covered everything. At the end of the day, none of this is going to come true, and the Yankees are going to run back out the same team. But at least we got this off our chest.
I fully expect Corey Seager, Verlander, and Hicks, Gary, and I don't know, maybe Rizzo all in the opening day lineup.
Yeah,
maybe.
Absolutely. And then we're gonna and then they're all gonna get hurt on the second.
We'll see. My hopes are really high, so we'll see. I'm excited, but
my hopes are really high. I mean, the fact that I think that Correa, Marte, Olsen, and one of these pitchers is even possible. I think that is something we would have never thought last year. So the sense of urgency, I feel, you know what I mean? Like if we were going into last year, I would have said, it would have been Simmons. We would have kept Voit and maybe signed one starter. You know what I mean? So I feel the urgency is there. I sense it. Whether the market falls our way, we'll see.
If they do Correa, Olsen, Marte, Stallings, and Verlander, I'll never complain ever again. And by never again, I mean like I won't complain until like May.
Yeah. Yeah. When they're 500.
Yeah.
All right.
We'll
All right.
see.
A lot more content coming your way. We'll do a full free agent video. Probably going to do shortstops as well. Some other stuff, Mets, any other teams or videos you have in mind, shoot us a DM, shoot us a comment below. Just let us know. I mean, we got a lot of time till baseball, guys. So we got to figure it out.
Too much time.
Too much time. All right. We'll catch you guys next time.
All right. Later, Scares.
Peace.